to my Heavenly Father, can you take care of George? He's 62 years old. You know who he is. And he got shot in the head. He was in Vietnam. From what I could understand, because his brain damage apparently took a toll on him, because he mumbled a lot of his words and saliva spitting out of his mouth, and doesn't have a dime to his pocket except for the $20 I gave him. And even if there's something that can be done for him that he can't do on his own, I'm sure there's programs for people instead of just being completely homeless without a hope. I remember seeing him before, sometime last year, and it was the same thing. He still had nothing back then. He wanted to die. He just wanted to go to sleep. But obviously, he's still alive. He doesn't want to kill himself. But the way that the system is, you fight for your country, you get sent into war, you get shot in the head, you get brain damage, and the government doesn't take care of you, but yet they'll spend millions of dollars on just blowing up a portion of I-95. I mean, they spend millions of dollars to repair something that they destroyed just to send a message. It's just, the system is so sickening. How, Satan, why don't you actually care for people that fought your battles? Why don't you care for them? Because you're selfish? Of course. It's only if someone can do something for you. That's it. So I'm asking you to, not you, Satan, my Heavenly Father, to find some relief for George. And not only just George, but people like him. Can you imagine, like, you're sending your son out to war to fight for you, and your battle that you're having him fight for is a selfish reason anyway. You're just sending him out there because, I don't know, you want more gold? You want more money? You want more oil? You just want more from what you already have. And so you send your kid out, he gets shot in the head, he has brain damage, and you never take care of him. You never even get him any of the help that he needs. I'm sure there's programs for people, but when you can't even talk and you're crying the entire time because of how left alone you are in this world, what more can I do for somebody besides give them a hug and tell them I'll pray for them? Well, here you go. Here's my prayer for George. This is why I need all the money in the world, Father. I need all the money in the world. I need to be able to distribute it, because the way it is, it's only if you're born into money can you have it at the way it is now, or if you were brought up and your parents raised you correctly and you were sent in the right direction, or even if you had step parents that helped you raise you correctly. Like, for instance, my stepson Trevor, I'm his stepfather. He has a father who loves him, but him and his mom weren't together. And when I met his mom, he was 11. He's 25 now, so 14 years. I've known him more than half his life. And the only thing that I did as a stepfather was to just provide the best school district in Pennsylvania. So I did it. I moved into Bucks County, Warrington, so he can go to CB South. It's CB South, East, and West. And between the three, one of the CBs is the top number 3 in Pennsylvania, and the top 2 schools were in Philadelphia, but they were, I think, charter schools. And then the same thing for my son. If I wasn't a great father and I didn't spend as much time as I'd like with Christian, well, at least I put him in the best school district so he can have an opportunity to basically have college courses in a high school. So when I went to a 2-year junior college, like the trade school portion, they have those teachers and what you learn in that high school at CB South. And I sacrificed my life working paycheck to paycheck, month to month, never actually really having that comfort zone ever, because I thought of other people. When you have a family of 4, well, at first they were roommates, bunk beds, and then we moved to another spot. And when I finally got custody of my son, then they moved in. It was a 2-bedroom twin house, and they moved in there, and it was better than the last one, but we were there for 2 years, and at the end of 2 years, they were getting ready to kill each other. Plus, there's an age difference. There was a 4-year age gap. So when Christian's 7 and Trevor's 11, yeah, it's like, it's a difference. So I decided to move to the best school district in Pennsylvania, into a house that was more expensive, but you know what? I'll just work harder. And then the reason why I didn't move is because the house I'm at, the landlord kept the rent down to basically exactly what it was 12 years ago when I moved in. $2,000 a month for a 4-bedroom home in the best school district in Pennsylvania. Now, I don't have any kids going to school anymore, but if I go and move into a 1-bedroom apartment, it's going to be $1,500. So I might as well stay where I'm at, even though I would like to downgrade, but I guess it just isn't time to downgrade. Maybe it's a time for an upgrade instead. There's this one commercial, I don't know who the guy was, but some famous black actor, and or at least he looked like he was famous. And he's like, now this is an upgrade. All right, let's go. And it reminded me of the moment I finally get the upgrade that God gives me for the work that I put in. Going from where I've been to looking out my window and saying, man, now this is an upgrade. All right, let's go. It's time to go to work. Time to do the actual work. The work that I need to do is, I need to do work for 8 hours that, or whatever my time limit is. I don't have one. But the 40 to 50 hours that I'm spending just to get back and forth to work and to work, I can put 50 hours in a week doing the will of God. I can't wait for that day. It's coming soon, too. It's coming soon. You know, Steve Benoon says things like, pray with confidence. Pray with expectations. Expect these things to happen. Well, my faith tells me that it's going to happen. Because, not just because it's like blind faith, but because I can see where things have been going, the direction, how things shift. And all I got to do is just keep doing what I've been doing. So praying for things, for people, I can't do anything for anybody besides listen to them, hear their suffering. I don't think Satan feels like listening to George mumble on and talk about how he wants to die, and I don't think Satan really feels like hearing anybody, because it's his system that's why they feel that way, because they're left alone. God doesn't exist in this world in many people's minds because Satan does. Most people don't even know how the system is even ran. I know who's running the system. To say it out loud is the X factor, because it sounds ridiculous, as if I would know who's running the entire currency planet on this planet. But I do. It's the House of Cain. And Stephen James DeShawn knows all about the House of Cain. Don't you, Steve? You know, Steve may sound like some kind of hard-nosed, tough guy, Peter type, but he just needed to be shown love also. Even Satan himself needs to be shown love from someone that he hates so much and has tormented his entire life, and can defeat him. That's the only way Satan shows love, is when he's defeated and shown love. That's the only way he can reciprocate it back. And that's the only way that Enki and Enlil can be rooted in their family and get back together. It's the only way the twin system can agree. They need a middleman. They need like a middle man. A man in the middle they need. Like Johnny Kleck was saying, there's a good Johnny and a bad Johnny. And with the two rocks being put back together, then they become one. They're able to run the planet in agreement with me. Let's just face it, my ideas are better than the old covenant. This covenant, well, you've been following me for 6 years and about 8 months, maybe 69. When will it be 6 years, 9 months? April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. January will be 6 years, 9 months. December, 6 years, 8 months. So it's 6 years, 8 months since I've been followed around. The first 4 years, I didn't know how much I was followed around, and then I started to realize more and more. And then at this moment, I know that every single second that I live and walk and talk and breathe, I'm surveilled through my own eyes, through every single camera that's in existence that can tap in at any moment. When I'm at work, even if there's no lights in the ceilings, I'm being watched. Unless I close my eyes and walk around blind, I don't think you can see me. Unless there's lights. You can hear me through the wires and the electricity, but you won't be able to see me unless you have lights somewhere. And if I walk around with my eyes closed, or if I cover up my left eye, I don't think Satan can see what I'm doing. And I'll have to test that one day. But the point is, I know I'm being watched, and I know more people are watching. Even people I see with my own eyes can be watching through their surveillance. People watch their cameras. And at one point I was irritated at that, but then I realized, well, that's what they need to see. They need to watch. Follow me. Watch. Watch what I do. Here, watch how I handle this one. Here, watch what I say off camera. Look, watch what I do when I'm not pushing record. Look what I tell you I'm doing and what I'm going to do when I do it, and I do it. Today, I don't feel like doing it. But I'm going to go home. I'm leaving a little early because Jonathan Kleck needs me to put together a collage of what happened at 17th and JFK when the water sprouted up out of nowhere, and then 8:48 when Barack Obama showed up, and do a slideshow. And it took, he wasn't able to do it until a couple of days, because a day is a year and a couple years. Well, sometimes it takes time to get stuff and put it together. And I know I need time. My main time to do videos really is, quality ones. It's not even at Beersheba, because I still have a time limit when I'm there, because they close, it's cold. The computer, it's slow. It spins. Everything is just meant to stall me as much as possible. But when I get home, I can do a better quality production. So we've been talking about Christmas. What's that, SpongeBob? I'm still trying to figure out what Kleck's saying there. It's like he's saying we're at that moment when it's finally going to happen. There's an eventuality. It has to happen at some point. There has to be a bang, a big bang, basically, is how. All right, well, as atheists believe in the Big Bang Theory, that there was a Big Bang and then God was created. Okay. Christ was born on Christmas? Well, no. Not literally born. But there's always a, happy birth of the Messiah Day. 3 years later. It's a 3-year process, just getting ready to start. A Big Bang starts in Philadelphia. It has to start in Philadelphia. There has to be a Big Bang. Because if not, how am I going to get, how can I possibly get anybody's attention? I can only get the attention of Satan and God and all the people that work in that government, because it's like the art museum. Is that Enki and Enlil? Because there's an E there. It's an E. Is Marduk down the road there, William Penn, or am I off on that one? Or is it just Enki's and Enlil's coming from above? Is Enki the angel of the bottomless pit, and then is Enlil representing the Lord God up in heaven, but is really the devil? Or is Enki the deputy and Enlil's the sheriff? Or is it neither? Because Satan puts himself on high and calls himself God. And with Enlil coming after Enki, it reminds me of Esau coming after Jacob, where the land is Jacob's, but he was being a deceiver. And I juxtapose positions there, because at times I think Stephen James is the Esau, because he talks about being Asu, Emmanuel. But when you flip things upside down, just do the exact SpongeBob opposite pants day, and then he can be the exact opposite. As in Jacob, the deceiver. Because Jonathan Click, it's not like he's deceiving me, unless if it's the other twin underneath the same suit. But you want to talk about a deceiver? The biggest liar on the planet is who? Exactly. The biggest liar I've ever met in my entire life is Stephen James the Sean. He accuses me day and night, day and night. I accuse him too, day and night, day and night. But my accusations are true. His accusations are lies. And he knows it. He knows it's the truth, because he lies about me. And I know I'm telling you the truth. That's how I know he's a liar. Everybody else, you can just discern on your own. It doesn't matter one way or another if you believe me or not. Even though it really truly does matter to Steve when he says that. When he says, I don't care if you believe me or not, oh, he truly definitely cares. He if you don't believe him, boy, will you be gang stalked. You don't believe him? Gang stalked. You want to see a train wreck? Fail to communicate with me then, Robin. It's funny how I know I already won. And I just have to follow through with the time. Time has to pass by. I already won, Steve. I already won. I guess it's best this way, huh? If I was born into money, I probably wouldn't care about the homeless people. If I didn't have to work for a living and be tired and know what it's like to be exhausted, why would I care? Why would I give two shits about people that are my slaves? Why would I care about the ant farm? What would be the point? I don't care. I'm living large and you're not. Well, that's how people think. And that's why Leviathan was created. Because Leviathan is meant to be evil. And that evilness turns you back to God. But he's going to let you get away with things in the beginning and get stuck between a rock and a hard place. And then he's going to come after you. He's coming after everybody. He's been after me since I started YouTube. So now I'm well equipped to rule the world. Everybody wants to rule the world. The only reason I want to rule it in public is so I can get you to turn back to God, the true creator. There's nothing wrong with believing in God. It's just there's something wrong with believing in a God that's false. There's something wrong with believing in God when your God is Satan. There's a reason why Stephen James is the only person on the planet that's named the Vicar of Lucifer. Because it's not like he doesn't know who Lucifer is. Because Lucifer runs the show. He's in charge. And if there's no other name on the planet besides Stephen James DeShawn as the Vicar of Lucifer, well, Steve, don't you want people to know that you're their boss? You see, the thing about Steve is he's been telling everybody that I'm not your boss. He's been telling everybody that I'm a liar, when he's the one lying. Steve doesn't tell you his obsession with me as just a regular human being walking the planet, and he's the top Luciferian head United States gang stalker in America. Now, that website could be slandering his name. It could all be lies. And truly, the one who's the Vicar of Lucifer is the one writing that about Steve. Or Lucifer himself could be writing that about Stephen James. And Steve's just second in charge. Like Belshazzar. Belshazzar was second in charge. But the only thing about that is Belshazzar's wife came to him and told him about Daniel. Belshazzar is someone that didn't know about Daniel. And Stephen James knew about Daniel from the beginning. More like King Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar, I believe, is Lucifer. There's a connection there. I've heard it before. It makes sense. He comes down from above. He lives on earth for 7 years like a poor suffering servant. And that's exactly what Stephen James is doing at this moment. He's playing the role very well, living in Michigan. I mean, I thought things were going to go well for you, Steve. I prayed for you. The next day your father passed away, who was 88. You know, my grandma passed away too, who was 88. Butt cheeks. I got to get my mom into the house. We got to get the water turned on. It's rent-free. The house is paid off. It's in my mom's name, and my mother is the next of kin. She's the oldest. It's between her and my Aunt Debbie. They're the only two siblings left. So if they can't agree on something, well, then I guess my mom's just moving in. And then she can have a backyard, a side yard. The house has a double lot. And she can do her planning and stuff and stay occupied. But in the meantime, it's that one-bedroom apartment that she's living in. And my nephew came to stay to help her out. But everybody needs space. Everybody needs to be loved. Everybody needs to be taken care of. And that's why it sickens me to death that people just aren't, especially the ones that fought for their country, and they don't get taken care of by their own government that sent them out to war. I guess I just wasn't born that way. I guess I was born somewhere else. It's in my DNA. My DNA has always been this way. Yeah, I became a criminal, but that's because I was hungry when I was 6 years old. 6, 7. My mom was occupied. She was depressed a lot. She took Xanax and just slept a lot. My dad wasn't there. He was never there. He was around, but he was never really there. So when you're hungry and poor, well, I would go to the store, to Circle K in Florida, and steal lunch meat and cheese because I'm hungry. I want some candy bars. If my mom was sleeping, I'd steal her food stamps and go to the store and get myself something to eat. I ate a lot of sugar and bread sandwiches growing up, and chicken and rice. I just can't imagine running the planet and just watching everybody suffer and not give a shit. So I guess that's why I'm here. Somebody has to be sickened to death of it. And I know I'm changing it. And I know I'm going to be in that position of authority where I'm able to do what I want to do with currency. You know, it's not every rich man's job to feed the homeless. They don't have to do anything. Because the way that the system is, it's how they were brought up into their system. If you're born into money, you don't really know what it's like. You don't know what it's like. You will only know what it's like when the entire system collapses and all that money doesn't do any good anymore. There's nothing, you can't buy anything anymore. And then those of you that receive the mark of the beast, well, you're going to say, yeah, well, I'm good because I can buy and sell because I have the mark. Well, no. You were deceived by your God, Lucifer, because he told you in order to be able to buy or sell, you're going to have to receive this mark. And it's the mark of the beast. It's the woman riding the beast. Whether it's male to female, or Eve with the serpent that beguiled her. She's a female, but her husband is within her. And her husband is bigger than any man on earth. So, those of you that received the mark of the beast, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, it's not just some chip in your hand or in your forehead or some kind of chip or something. It's literally has to do with the host body system, and Jonathan Click is the one that taught me all about it. Taught me everything about it in Philadelphia, the landscape. The whole thing is right there. It's right there in front of the art museum. Just Google map it. When you see a ginormous penis, just like you just seen with Prime, an outline in that parking lot, when you study what that is, and you have good teachers, well, that's how I learned what things are. I can care less about it, what you have, what's going on in your body, in your belly, or whatever. That doesn't matter to me. What matters is, how do you treat people? And are you in that position of power? And then what do you do with that power? I don't hold it against people that are born into it, because it's like the same way with why are we all here in hell? Because the devil lied to you. He lied to you and he kept you in fear with the lie. So again, my belief is you can be a transgender and go to heaven when you're done. You just have to admit what you are, what you did, and repent from your lies. You don't have to have another person to do sexual things with. Especially if you're like Eve. I mean, you have your own husband within your own body. What do you need? Why do you need to hunt the souls of men to make your pillows fly? I've learned it's more about the company you keep. For instance, something me and my wife, man, I sure can't wait to have one of those bad boys. Shoo. The best thing that happened is me and my wife separating. Are we the same species? Probably not. If I did an x-ray of my wife, would I find something inside of her? You do an x-ray of me, what do you find inside of me? Just guts. Just guts. I have a lot of guts. And balls. Not on the inside. My guts are on the inside. I didn't spill those. I'm not going to spill my guts. Because there's nothing to spill. There's nothing. I'm not hiding anything to spill your guts. Judas, on the other hand, when he hung it up, he spilled his guts. So so his guts literally got spilled out. And he hung up his career. And he was replaced. It takes guts to tell the truth. But don't you want to go to heaven when you're done? Do you believe in heaven? Is that why people don't go to heaven? Because Satan lied to them? Go figure! Yep, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. That's why heaven only has who they have, because Satan has been in charge of this planet, teaching people lies, and then using people like Steve and James to threaten your life and to talk shit and just non-stop, never-ending babble that at some point it's like enough's enough already, Steve. But I understand you got to do your job because God sent you here to do your job, because that's who you work for. Sure, everybody else on the planet may work for you, but your boss is God. I have an earthly boss. His name's David. And I feel like David has a heart after a man after God's own heart. Someone that can forgive somebody for stealing from them and then give them a job at the end. That's pretty forgiving. I mean, that's a godly thing to do. He didn't have to do that. He could have said, F you, Robin, you scumbag piece of shit. Stealing my appliances, scraping up my floor, all high on 5 Xanax that night. That's not an excuse that you're a drug addict loser. Well, it's Satan's job to remind you of what you did. It's my job to tell you that you've been forgiven for what you've done. It's my job to tell you the truth. It's Stephen's job to lie to you. How long are you going to differ between the two? When are you going to choose? I did this art museum footage, right? And Stephen James was saying, yeah, Robin's not stalked. He's an idiot. He's stupid. He needs mental help. But as he's talking about me being stalked, he's showing his shadow turn around the corner. And then don't you know, a year later or so, I recorded the Scorpion video with the same shadow walking around, lining up with my footage. Don't you know that in an art museum, that's my footage that you see identical to U2's footage, all 8 songs? There's nobody else on the planet that can show you that besides me. Was that supposed to be hidden from me, or was I supposed to find out? I think Satan knows everything, so it's not like it's a surprise that I found Bono mimicking me in his videos, moment to moment, shape after shape, shadow after shadow, color scheme, because Bono believes in the kingdom come where all colors bleed into one. And that's what happened with my half-hour footage of the X app recording it, is that everything bled into the next. So that's like slaying the 450 false prophets on Mount Carmel, and then I have Jezebel coming after me because I'm at the end of the road, and so is she. Ahab, he just lets her go. It's like, I don't know, it's like it's Steve Bannoon. You gonna do something about it? You just gonna let her continue on, or what? Or is that, or do I have that wrong? Is that Jonathan Click? Huh? Mm-hmm. Nobody can tame Jezebel? Is that why? So I feel like Elijah. I do. I feel like Jezebel, the spirit, is coming after me. I feel like Satan knows that his time is short, because he knows that I know the timing of things now. I'm more hip to the timeline, considering I've been up for 6 years and 8 months being attacked by Jezebel. Not the first 9 months. I didn't realize Jezebel was attacking me. I just thought I was making friends. But Satan was deceiving me. And, you know, I have a big heart. I've befriended people that commented, and I talked back with them. I said, why don't you make a video? Show your face. That way I can get a picture of who you are. And everybody started doing that just for me. Like, I got a lot of people to do that. I didn't know at the time that their intentions was because they work for Stephen James, and that's like their Jesus, Asu, Emmanuel. And that's why Steve reminds me of Judas at times, because he's like the 13th apostle that needs to be replaced because he keeps lying about me. He just doesn't stop. At a certain point, it's like, oh my goodness, it's been 6 years now. Where's the reward? Why would somebody continually pay attention to me and lie about me when I'm telling you the truth? It's never happened to me before in my life. For this long, too. So, Judas wasn't even from the area of all the other apostles, and he did spill his guts. And I think it's time to hang up the career. Satan entered into Judas. Now, does that mean Judas was Satan? Or Satan entered into Judas? It's more like Satan entered into Judas, because Judas seemed like he was deceived. Even Christ said to him in the book of Judas, it's not in the Bible, but there's more truth even in these books, he said, Judas, your star has deceived you. Because truly, Christ was following Judas's disciples, and Judas's disciples were following Jesus. So they were surveilling, gang stalking Jesus, and Jesus was paying attention and learning from Judas's disciples. Now, Stephen James could be the devil himself. He's acting like a good devil. But at the same time, I feel like Derek Bros is in charge of this planet, the system, not the landlord like Jonathan Clegg, like Adam and Eve, but more like the AI technological standpoint. So Adam and Eve tending the garden, taking care of the land, and AI, the serpent, the devil, would be in charge of the red lights, the green lights, the electricity. Everything that's electric reminds me of what Derek Bros is in charge of. Derek Bros can turn millionaires into billionaires. I was on his show 3 weeks in a row. He said I discovered some very realistic things, and he's a Hollywood producer. He's not a producer, but even more than that. According to, I go by what I'm shown. And if you're a senior vice president of Paramount Pictures, at some point in your former life, then that means you're a shot caller. And I was on your show. I sent out my number, I think, on Twitter, on one of your comments, and you wind up calling me back, even though Justin Michael was making fun of me for leaving my number to you. I don't really know how he knew, besides he's in surveillance too, but he hinted around with the serpent language, and I caught on. So Derek Bros called me, or text me. I'm like, nah, I don't know if that's really you. I'm gonna have to talk to you directly. And then he called me, and I talked to him for about a half hour. And then the following week, yeah, buddy, the following week or two, I appeared on the show. I had a 7-second delay. Couldn't really say much. Second time around, I felt more comfortable. Took a lot of clips from that. Third time around was about the hybrid CIA agents. And so the cool thing about that was, it's not like he's acting like he doesn't watch me. And with me searching for Enki and Enlil, Enoch and Elijah, even though I juxtapositions and go back and forth with the people as to who's who, he said I discovered some very realistic things with all four of them. Did I discover myself? Or am I discovering other people? Did I discover my mom and dad? Did I discover everybody's mother and father on earth here? You know, in my baby picture, I have this person. It looks like a giant Nephilim head. He has a crack in his forehead. That reminds me of Goliath being cracked in the forehead. And he reminds me of the all-seeing eye, because it's his one eye that is behind my head, showing you with his one eye as the all-seeing eye. Because that's his right eye, and his left eye is plucked out. But I heard if you pluck your right eye out, you're getting rid of God, because God can see through your right eye, and Satan can see through your left eye. Your right side, obviously, is what's right, God. Your left side is what's wrong. It's left behind, Satan. So I don't know. Maybe my father plucked out his left eye. Just a thought. But when you look at it, he has a hairy arm. And that hairy arm would remind you of Esau, Jacob and Esau. But when you look closer, I gotta get a clearer picture and blow that thing up and do some tracing and outline. I know Jonathan Click wants me to do that, but my goodness, I just don't have time. Free up my time, Johnny. When I look closer at the arm, it looks like it's a bone with a hand and it looks like a wristband, like a white one, but it looks really, really tight. So therefore it looks more like a slip-on hairy arm garment, as Jacob is acting like he's Esau trying to deceive his father, Isaac. Because Isaac was sacrificed by his father, Abraham. He sacrificed him. But he had faith. He had faith that he didn't have to kill him. So in my baby picture, it almost looks like it's a Jacob and Esau scenario. And then you have Skeletor / Kiss at the top of the Nephilim character that I'm supposedly sitting on the lap. But the truth is, all those pictures were taken separately, and Jonathan Click is the one that drew the artwork in that picture. So who's Jonathan Click? To me. Who am I? To you. How did my eyes see that? How do I see these things? It all just progresses and then builds up into a ball of knowledge that at some point I'm going to explode onto the scene. And the way I'm going to explode onto the scene is by an explosion onto the scene. I feel like Jonathan Click's explosion to the scene was Christmas 3 years ago, because on December 24th, 2020, he was talking about he has a Christmas gift for everybody. He was so excited. My goodness. You were so excited, Jonathan Click, that I knew something was happening on Christmas. So that's why I predicted what I did, and then Nashville blew up. Not Philly, but here we go, 3 years later. I think it's time. But you're talking about something where you hit a brick wall. You're listening. You thought the Lord, it's like you did what he said, and then the floor just came crashing down. You could be talking about Liberty 1, Liberty 2, 17 JFK. Once the explosion hits and the floor comes crashing down, you could be talking about that. But why would you be upset? If you're trying to make it seem like that's my story, and I'm going to be upset, and in the next 3 days, I just want to die, but yet those next 3 days were the best things that could have happened. What does that mean? What am I going to jail? Am I just going to be am I going to get kidnapped and I'm disappointed with nothing happens on Christmas? It's not like it won't be the first time. I'm just so looking forward to being able to get everybody's attention. That's all I really want to do. And how am I going to do that without an explosion of some sort? Predicting what was already planned out before I was born. I'm telling you, I'm predicting something that before I was born was already planned out. So in order to meet Satan, I would have to meet him at the exact spot that he's going to destroy something in Philadelphia. to give it a little bit of strength. And maybe Stephen James's job is to destroy Philadelphia, because he said it. He said, look, Stephen James DeShawn said gematria, his witchcraft, that book confirms Philadelphia's destruction. And he only said that like 3 years after I predicted and figured out it was Philadelphia was the target, because he said it sometime last year. And then he confirmed the landscape of the art museum, the serpent behind it, holding the sword. I believe you said that's Jacob's sword. And then he confirmed the RFID chip, which is Love Park. And the fact that it's a syringe, the same thing I said that it was. He did a lot of confirmations. He's acting like he's against the Jews. And in reality, he could actually be Jacob himself as the deceiver. And he's really the one sitting behind me in my baby picture, looking dressed up like Esau. Because he does act like he's the devil. But remember, Jacob was the deceiver. So who's going to rule as Israel? Who's going to rule? Or do I just not pick a side and I rule? Well, whatever. It's not for me to decide, whether it's Jonathan Click or Stephen James, one on my left, my right-hand man, my left-hand man. It ain't up for me to decide that. That's up to the Father. Right, Skip? Skip, are they your sons? Everything's male, female, so people I talk about on the YouTube platform, when I attach them as a feminine, don't be alarmed just because they have a face of a man. These are all mask, bodysuits, voiceovers. They're disguising themselves. It's my job to figure them out, because I got to figure you out in spirit. And that brings me back to the best thing that could happen between me and my wife is we separated. Whether or not she is separated and just by herself, well, she wasn't. She admitted she wasn't. I did get the truth out of her as much as she could tell me. And so maybe it's like at a certain point, I was watching this clip. It was Jesus and Mary, and he was talking. It was a more realistic Jesus. He wasn't, some tall, built, Jacob Israel type. He was more or less an average human being like myself, but he had hair, of course. And he's talking to Mary, and she's like, what do you know about me? Because she's all distraught. He said, I know you're a fallen woman. I know that, Mary. I know that you're a fallen. Whoa, man. Right? I know that about you, Mary. I know that what's inside of your body falls out. And then he's like, what do you want? What are you looking for? She says, I'm looking for love and to be loved. That's it. I can do that. I can love my wife. I can show her love. I love her. I love her more than anybody because I spent the most time with her. I've spent the most time absorbing her demons that Ray left her for the past 7 years before I met her. I can't help to think that Ray is like the Ray god in the gematria. I always see Ray, the god, and Ray was definitely possessed by the devil, according to her stories. I never met him. But, who knows? Maybe Ray is Stephen James, and he sent his own wife in my direction. Because he also said, I know you're fallen and you're divorced. I know that about you. And then I wondered, what if Jesus actually married Mary and he didn't know that, because it's like you're Jesus, you're supposed to know everything. Nah, it's not the way it works. Satan knows everything. Jesus' dad, earthly father, not heavenly, earthly. So what if Jesus actually married somebody else's wife, and then that's why they brought her to Jesus, and he knew that he was married to Mary, but they were accusing her of committing adultery, and they were wondering what he wanted to say about it. And at the time when he says that, he's no longer having any sexual relations with her. He's just basically showing her love. And at that moment, that's when she stopped sinning. Because whatever Christ wrote in the sand, apparently they got the message, and so did Mary. Because it's all about secrets. It's all about what's hidden, Mary. What are you hiding? Is it an Adam and Eve kind of a thing where it's a male to female, but you can't tell? Twin gun system? Or is it female turned male from the inside out? From what Cain can plant inside of you to grow fruit? I'm still not 100% understanding it, but there is possibilities both ways. I could actually be right both directions. But the reason why they dropped their stones is because they were all hypocrites. They were all hypocrites, guilty of the same thing, if not committing fornication with her. Most likely they were all the serpents committing adultery with her. But they definitely knew the same thing. They all knew, and so did Christ. But he learned what he knew. He searched the matter out as a king of all the kings. Yeah, sure, Steve could be the king of kings on earth. He could actually be my boss's king. And maybe Dave doesn't even know that Stephen James DeShawn is actually the king of all the kings on earth. And maybe Steve just wants to introduce himself and say, hey, I'm your boss. And then he also wants to say, hey, I'm your boss, but Robin's my boss. And you're his boss. You're his earthly boss. I'm your kingdomly boss, and Robin's my spiritual boss. Because if he wasn't, I would be paying attention to somebody else all the time, slandering their name and lying about him. I just don't have the authority at the moment to make that a reality so people can. And it's not like it's not a pride issue either. I truly want people to know that I'm Stephen James DeShawn's boss. And I want everybody to know that he is your boss. And he's the king of all of you. Or he's not the king of all of you. He's just acting like he is. Because he's just hired to do a job. He's just a hired hand. And really, Derek Bros is the boss of everybody. As Satan, as Enlil, as the ruler above. And he's tired of all the shit down here on earth. He's tired of the same stuff I am, that I'm tired of. But then I thought, I don't know. Maybe Stephen James DeShawn is actually Derek Bros. And that's who Inky is. I mean, Enlil. I'm always going to juxtapositions until you tell me straight, until everybody that I met is in the same room at the same time, and I'm done. My job is finished, and everybody tells me the truth. Or you just confirm eeny, meeny, miny, or mo. Because I'm sure that between juxing positions, multiple choice, when I get 3 multiple choices, I'm sure that I got it right with one of them. It's just I don't know which one to stick with. That's probably why they said, like, with Daniel, how they said he was so accurate at the end, but I think they probably knew he had a bunch of juxings of positions, so they didn't want to give him credit for being so accurate. So they said he must have already written the book after the fact or something like that. Like, he wrote the book after the events took place. Amit. Now, Amit, if I can see that. No, it went away. I was going to show you Amit. It looked like Amit disappeared, but said she was 28 years old. But it looked like he turned into a she. Let's see if I can do that again. It's always 10 after 10. See that? 10-10? 10-10, guaranteed. Stephen James claims that number too. Hostage since October 7th. That's a lie. Because it's all a lie. The only thing that's true is I'm the one that wrote 7 pages October 7th, 2016, warning everybody about what's coming. And then the bombs were dropped on Israel on October 7th, 2023, which is exactly 7 years later. And that's the truth. One day I'm going to run out of breath, and I'm going to finally go home, be done with Satan's world. But beforehand, I want to conquer it and take over it. And I want to truly help people. Starting with Center City, Philadelphia. That's the first thing I want to do. The first thing I'm going to do. If Philadelphia gets nuked, like Pet Goat 2, and everything is rebuilt, and we have a little bit of strength, when I get my position, the first thing I'm going to do is build something in the center of the city. And it's going to take the homeless people. They're going to be shown that God actually loves them, and Satan's no longer in charge of the planet. That's what I'm going to do. Because the first thing is, people that need help, like George today, he I don't even think he knows what to even do, where to go to even try to get help, because nobody can even understand him. You got to calm him down. It's things like that where you will always have a place to get washed, get your clothes cleaned, a place to eat, and programs for you to be able to, like spiritual programs. Because once people are shown that there's somebody that actually cares about them, so for the rest of my life, I need all the money in the world in order to do the things that I want to do. If not all the money, I just need access. Matter of fact, I don't even need the money. I just need access. But I'd rather take all the money, just because of the simple fact that Satan has been so greedy with all of it. Because if I have all the money in the world, I'm not going to have all the money in the world very long. Because it's not going to be, all I want to do is have it so I can distribute it. and create a better world for people in this existence. I mean, I'm not asking for too much. Am I, Heavenly Father? You hear my prayers, right? You told me. You said pray with earnest expectations. I'm expecting all these things to finally come true because baby Jesus there is at the top, and he is the Lord. It's not like I'm asking for a yacht and a brand new home and a Ferrari, and I know those things will come in due time. That's part of the reward package. But God knows my heart. He knows that I just want to help people. I want to help you, no matter who you are, no matter what religion you are, no matter what you were taught. I don't care if you're a 33 degree Mason, 32 degree, 13 degree, whatever degree. I've learned your secrets. I've learned that Lucifer lied to you, and he's keeping you as his slave. That's what I've learned. So when I've learned these secrets and I take over the system, you're free from it. But you have to learn a lesson, which is what I learned. I learned the lesson the hardest way, which is 6 years and 8 months I've been learning these lessons. There's a 7-year tribulation period, and when I showed up on YouTube, I put a lot of people through a tribulation because they were lying and hiding stuff. They were hiding from me. The tribulation is a trial period. The angel of the Church of Philadelphia is going to be kept from the hour of temptation, the hour, the hours, the months, however long it takes, because that angel would know the truth. I must be from that church. I must be from that church. Or it's my favorite church. It's one or the other. I mean, it's not going to be a shock when you see that I've taken over the financial currency system and everybody's broke and are like, hey, Robin, hey, buddy, we're good, right? Yeah, we're good. You learned your lesson. That's all I need you to do is just learn a very valuable lesson. It's not a threat. I don't threaten people like Stephen James. I need you to learn a very valuable lesson because there's value in the lesson that you're going to learn. The lesson is you're listening to somebody that has a tremendous amount of faith in things that are unseen, and so many things you've heard me say sound so ridiculous, but when you see it come to pass, your belief in God will skyrocket. You will turn away from Satan and believe in God, and it's going to be the God that I've been presenting this entire time. It ain't me, it's God. Don't worship me, worship God.